I used to romanticize about winter when I was a little boy. Perhaps because of the Christmas scenes in the Hollywood movies that I had seen on television, I was also smitten by the Christmas song, "I'm Dreaming of a White Christmas." Like most other Filipinos, I also experienced decorating Christmas trees with strands of cotton made to look like snow. Until, of course, I actually experienced what winter was like when I did my graduate studies in Belgium. It was then that I realized there was nothing romantic at all about winter. It was the darkest and the coldest time of the year. If I could sum up winter in one word, I would spell it as misery. Misery. You would wake up late in the morning, you look out of your window and realize it is still dark, even if it is already 9 o'clock in the morning. You wrap yourselves up in several layers of clothes, topped by a very bulky winter coat, only to realize that you still forgot to bring along a scarf, a bonnet, a pair of gloves. And so you get drenched by a drizzle of icicles that drench your hair as you ride your bicycle and face the harsh and biting winter wind that freezes your hands, your nose, your ears, and makes your lips crack and bleed. You try to avoid spilling on wet snow that quickly turns into slippery and muddy ice. But sometimes you just cannot avoid it. I fell on slippery ice many times during those years that I spent in Belgium. I wonder what winter must have been like for our Stone Age ancestors. I can only imagine how terrified they must have been about the winter season coming, about the days getting shorter and darker and colder, about bare trees looking dead, about everything, including rivers and lakes, getting frozen. I imagine how they must have sought refuge inside the caves, how they huddled together skin to skin and warmed themselves before a bonfire. I imagine how they must have told stories to each other around the bonfire in order to warm not just their bodies, but also their minds and their hearts. I imagine all the rituals that they did in order to bring cheer and hope to one another amidst the darkness, the gloom, and the unbearable cold around them. And I think of Advent as one of those rituals, still with the same spirit, albeit far removed already from the Stone Age period. Advent is meant to awaken in us a longing expectation for the coming of a Savior, just when you are almost tempted to despair. You know, it makes sense why people who have to face harsh winters would drape their homes with garlands of evergreens at the time of the year when all other trees look so dead and so lifeless, to decorate them with some trinkets and lighted candles in different hues of purple. Because I find it funny that we use plastic evergreens when the whole environment remains green even during Christmas. Well, we look forward to springtime. If you are in a country with harsh winter, you will look forward to springtime after the dreary, dark and cold days or months of winter. This is the kind of image that I get from our first reading today. Isaiah, the prophet, is speaking about Lebanon turning green again, about gloom and darkness passing away. It projects into the future a dream waiting to be fulfilled, about the deaf being made to hear and the blind being made to see. It speaks about the vindication of the poor and the end of tyranny and oppression, about a time of redemption for Israel. Our gospel reading from Matthew tells us before Jesus restored light to the darkened eyes of the blind, He first ignited within them the light of faith. And so He asked them first, "Do you believe that I can do this?" And only after proclaiming their faith does He say, "Let it be done for you according to your faith." And so they got more than what they asked for. When their eyes were opened, they saw not just Jesus, but the Savior they had long been waiting for. In the version of St. Mark, where we hear not of two, but rather of one blind beggar whose name is Bartimaeus, the blind man boldly declares, "Master, I want to see." And as soon as he receives his sight, instead of going home, as Jesus instructed him, sabi niya, "Go home," no, he follows Jesus. He follows Jesus on the way. Brothers and sisters, we are facing a relatively gloomy Christmas ahead of us because of this pandemic. I am sure you will be missing the typical Christmas parties left and right. Perhaps this year, we can tone down on Christmas and take the penitential season of Advent a bit more seriously, so that we can truly prepare ourselves for the coming of the true light, who alone can dispel the darkness of our lives.